I'm Rudabeh Shabazi. Thanks for joining us on Eyewitness News on LA 56 at 7 p.m. We have breaking news now following a pursuit in South Los Angeles.
I'm David Ono. We are following that red sedan right now. We're getting word that it started as a CHP pursuit by around the westbound 105 near Long Beach Boulevard, and he has wound his way from the 105 to the 110, and now we understand that he is on surface streets in South Los Angeles. You can see he has his hazards on. He's been winding his way through the streets of South LA. We just got on top of this pursuit. It started just a few minutes ago. So far, from our observations, we haven't heard of any accidents so far. He was traveling at a high rate of speed, but now he's on surface streets in South LA.
And he is in a neighborhood right now. You can see pedestrians out there, other traffic. This is rush hour time. You see CHP patrol car right behind him, and he is not stopping. He's continuing to go, just made a left-hand turn and going through this neighborhood, these neighborhood streets with CHP officers on his tail.
All right, we understand that it is now registered as a stolen vehicle. It had LoJack. They were able to track this car because of the LoJack system. So this may be the pursuit of a stolen car. Perhaps the person who stole that car is the reason why he's running away from police. So that's what started this whole thing. But so far, not as erratic as we've seen other pursuits, but nevertheless, they're going to have to handle this very carefully.
Yeah, going around some of those corners, he did slow down. Now it looks like he's speeding up again. But it did appear that he, at least is maybe keeping his eye out for people on the street and other cars on the streets in this residential neighborhood. You can see as he goes by some of these homes and residences, people kind of coming out and taking a look at what's going on. Of course, you want to stay away, stay inside if you live in this neighborhood. It's very unpredictable. We don't know what's going to happen next.
We're getting word that this could possibly be a female driver inside this car. As we mentioned, it started as a LoJack pursuit. The car was believed to have been stolen. The Sheriff's Department apparently tracked it down in the Northridge area, or stolen in the Northridge area. They did find this vehicle somewhere around the 105 freeway in South LA, and then the pursuit was on.
And he is still in South Los Angeles at this time. You can see the officer, the patrol car behind him with the lights on. We assume the sirens are probably on too, but hard to tell right now. Now he is approaching another car on the street. Well, so far, pretty lucky in those residential neighborhoods. Not a lot of traffic on those streets that he had been in. We're trying to get or she, depending on whether it's a male or female driver. We don't know if there are other people in the car. Those are all things we're trying to find out right now as this live situation unfolds on the surface streets in South Los Angeles.
South LA, this vehicle might have been stolen in Northridge. That's where the LoJack system was registered. As we said, a Sheriff's Department was able to find it and then track it down. CHP, you'll notice, was in pursuit. They took this pursuit over when it hit the freeway from the 105 to the 110 freeway, and that's basically where he hopped off the 110 freeway and then into these surface streets in South Los Angeles. You're starting to see the sun gun from their helicopter that is now on top of this car. There's a little bit of a look inside the cockpit of the car, the driver's side car. It did look like it could potentially be a female, but we don't know for sure. But that's the talk right now, possibly a female driver. Yeah, that's probably a decent possibility.
Yeah, that is a possibility. And driving a little bit more erratically now. Just a minute ago, she or he, the driver, was on the wrong side of the street, going the wrong direction. So growing a little bit more erratic. Now appears to be back on the right side of the street. And again, luckily, not a lot of pedestrians out right now in this neighborhood. And often they go to the neighborhoods where they live, where they're from. So anyone's guess what this driver is doing, why they have this car, he or she, whether there are other people in that vehicle right now.
That's a good shot. It does look like there might be a second person inside. There's definitely a passenger inside the car, too. I can see the arm moving on the passenger side. I'm pretty sure that's what I saw there. So at least two people in this vehicle with probably a female driver in it. So we're gathering more information. The sun is starting to go down, but you see the sun gun from the helicopter on top of this car. Still, we can see it pretty well, but be careful if you're in that neighborhood. You can already see people kind of working their way towards the street to try to find this. Not sure where he's going, or she is going, but near a shopping center, some sort of Alameda, did that say?
Yeah, it's Alameda.
So inside some sort of a shopping center right now, a parking lot, waiting for the car to come around a corner here. And these potentially, they could find themselves trapped inside these narrow parking lots. If the police know where the outlet is, you can see it's a pretty narrow area right now they're trying to maneuver through and probably try to get out of. So perhaps this driver might be a little bit lost finding their way into this. But as we often see, and the experts always tell us, more often than not, somebody involved in a police pursuit will try to find their way to a recognizable neighborhood, a neighborhood that they are familiar with so they know where to go. Otherwise, what was that?
Spike strip, it looks like.
Spike strip.
Yeah, it looked like and CHP, that car, that law enforcement officer, very close on her tail or his tail. And of course, it gets a lot more dangerous too. I mean, there is the potential that when he or she goes into the more crowded parking lot,
that's
they
a
just
dangerous
clip
move.
that car?
Right. It looked like it could have clipped it, and then there have been severe injuries when it comes to law enforcement trying to get the spike strips out there. In fact, sometimes some suspects we have seen try to go to the law enforcement officer, actually trying to hit that officer. In that particular case, it was difficult to see whether or not the spike strip deployed properly. It definitely deployed, but to me it looked like it might have hit the front of the car. I'm not sure if it got underneath the car in order to puncture the tires. However, we'll probably be able to tell soon. Does it look like it's swimming around there just a little bit? If so, maybe they did get a hit on that spike strip, and you start to lose the tread. The tires go south and go low. They do look like there could be a problem on there, but we're going to watch it closer. Eventually, you'll see the tread simply peel away, and they almost have no control over the vehicle, and they also lose some speed, but sometimes it takes a little while for that to happen. Nevertheless, an aggressive move by law enforcement to get that spike strip out of there. It looked like a good place to do it because it was a narrow roadway, and the person was kind of winding around throughout that neighborhood. And
the driver also getting more aggressive, running red lights, swerving around traffic. It looked like the driver almost or did clip another car, and you know, the area is getting more crowded now, going through more densely populated areas with more traffic on the road. So very dangerous situation out there right now.
When it comes to dangerous pursuits, this car is not traveling as fast as we've seen other pursuits. That's a good thing. There might be a little bit more control, although that turn looked like they could have had a little bit of trouble on it. Perhaps the tires were hit when it comes to that spike strip when they took that turn. The police units behind it, CHP units behind it, they're a little bit closer. Because of the lack of speed, which is good, because you could warn people that you're coming through, and folks, you can see they're all kind of at a standstill. Hopefully some will get out of the way if they can, but nevertheless they're staying still and allowing this to go through without being oblivious to what's going on. High speed, that's where it gets really dangerous.
Yeah, and especially if people, you know, the sun is going down, if people aren't really aware of what's going on, pedestrians in the road and other traffic, you know, sometimes these drivers get aggressive and erratic when they can't get out of traffic, like right now going the wrong way down the street to try to get around some other traffic. A busy intersection here, another car just came to a halt. You actually see smoke from the tires there, trying to avoid the collision with this car. So, and it looks like now a higher rate of speed also. On that shot,
I'm trying to determine, it does to me look like the tread is all the way down on those front tires. They might have gotten a hit on that spike strip. It looks like it's down to the rim on the front tires. It could be the lighting, but there you go.
Yeah,
that's a good shot. Doesn't it look like it's all the way down to the roadway? So that means basically a couple of things. This could get more dangerous as the car loses control. However, it could also get the driver, to finally give up, because controlling this car, keeping the speed up, it's going to get more and more difficult. We've often seen these pursuits go to the point where they're on rims, throwing sparks, and the car catches on fire. Hopefully this person will get some sense about him or her and cut this off before that. But it does look like that they were successful in the spike strip, so maneuverability is going to be a key concern for the driver.
Still on surface streets here, not paying any attention to traffic lights, stop signs, the direction of the flow of traffic, other cars on the street, and we're just hoping that pedestrians don't inadvertently get in the way, or other cars. We're hoping that no one gets hurt here. Again, we don't know if the suspect is armed. This was registered as a carjacking out of possibly the Northridge area. This pursuit started a little bit before 7, about 10 minutes before 7, and the suspect led law enforcement officers on the 105 freeway, then the 110, got off on in South LA around the Manchester exit, and has been leading law enforcement officers on this pursuit ever since, at sometimes picking up speed, at other times slowing down. But it does appear that the front tire, at least one of those front tires, has been worn down to the tread after a spike strip was deployed. And again, we are hearing reports that this could be a female driver, and we were trying to see earlier whether there was cyclist there.
Yeah.
That was a close call. We were trying to see if there was a passenger or passengers in the car too. Hard to tell there, but it does look like it could possibly be a female driver. Hard to know.
Can you see a passenger in that car? I swear I saw a passenger on a previous shot. It's tough to see from that angle, but I feel like I saw somebody moving around. Maybe she's... the thing that's interesting is it hasn't deterred the driver from continuing to try to get away. And the fact that they're losing control of the car, they don't have tread on the front tire. We don't know on the passenger side. We do know on the driver's side the tread is going away. The tire is all the way down to the rim.
And again, this could be the neighborhood of the suspect. This could just be a random location where he or she got off of the freeway, but he or she, the driver, did lead law enforcement officers into a shopping mall parking lot. Now, again, in another parking lot. Looks like not coming to a dead end, getting out. It seems like she's been kind of trying to maneuver through parking lots to get out onto different streets. And pretty much staying on surface streets now in those neighborhoods, two-lane roads, smaller areas, maybe trying to avoid traffic, maybe going back to that suspect's neighborhood. We just don't know at this point.
Somebody else just confirmed to me that he also saw the passenger in the car, so there's at least two people in this vehicle. That's all we know right now. We know nothing more about who might be in this car besides the fact that we are thinking that it is a female driver. So a female driver, more than likely a passenger in that car. Both seem to be adults to me. Tough to tell at this point. But the car, there's a good shot from our Air 7 right now. You can see the narrow roadways, trying to figure out which direction to go. Got to a four-way, didn't quite know where to go. There's another car standing there at the intersection waiting.
And there are more cars too, and you can see law enforcement very close behind this suspect vehicle. So they're not afraid to get really close, apparently. And you can see other cars pulled over on the side of the street there. At least they seem to know what's coming, so that's good. Can
you tell if the headlights are on in that car? I know the hazards are on, but I'm not sure about the headlights. You can see the sun is going down. The cars that they're passing do have their headlights on, like that truck right there. So visibility is becoming more and more of an issue, although, of course, the helicopter with the spotlight on the car is going to help at least people identify that something unusual is going on here. But you could see the families walking on the sidewalks. That's when these things are very dangerous. A pit maneuver would be very dangerous in a situation like this because these streets are very narrow and there are people on the streets, although if they do find the right place to do it, they might enact that as well. The spike strips have been successful.
And people coming out, it looks like almost to see what's going on. Of course, that is not advisable. If you do live in the area or you are in the area and hearing this, you definitely want to stay inside. Don't put yourself out in harm's way because these situations can be so unpredictable. We don't know if the suspect is armed. We don't know how this is going to end. And clearly the driver not paying attention or caring much about traffic signals, the direction of the flow of traffic, none of that. So definitely want to stay away from this scene if you can.
All right, let's go to JT Alpa, who is joining us on the phone, has been watching this pursuit and helping us out to determine what's going on. JT, are you there?
I'm there, David, and luckily so far it looks for that spike strip did the job and at least slowed her down a little bit, if it is indeed a female. It's here driving through these streets here in a relatively reckless way, but you see the people out and coming out and looking at this pursuit, and what's known for a stolen vehicle right now, it's in the L.A. County area, and LAPD is the initiation on this pursuit, but it looks like CHP has actually taken over the pursuit on the city streets. Right now she's driving at manageable speeds, mainly because that vehicle, that front tire is down from that spike strip, which is very good news. So far not moving that fast, but the bad news is that makes that vehicle even less controllable on these city streets right now as the pursuit continues. So right now they're managing this pursuit, they're figuring out what they want to do with it, and the supervisors in the pursuit, managing the pursuit, seeing where they can actually do any type of a pit maneuver, maybe a pursuit intervention technique. So right now making all these determinations to see where they can get this driver stopped.
We just got a wider shot kind of giving you an idea of the area of that neighborhood, of where the CHP officers are, how close behind this driver they are, and kind of gives you an idea of the rate of speed he or she is going to. Again, we do believe it is a female driver. We got initial reports, but again, that's what has not been confirmed yet.
JT, I imagine that the CHP, since this car is not going to last forever, especially losing its front tire or tires, what's their tactic at this point? Do they just stay behind it? Do they continue to be aggressive and maybe deploy more spike strips trying to get the back tires, or do they try a pit maneuver?
Well, David, all those are all in the tool chest of the California Highway Patrol on stopping these types of pursuits. But what they want to do right now, as you can see, the speed's not terribly too dangerous or too fast, so they can wait and see, kind of trail behind. And what they want to do is they want to get into an ideal area where that type of movement or that type of maneuver may be advantageous for them to do. And as you can see, there was a passenger. There's a shot there from Air 7 HD. There is a passenger side in that vehicle, and there's a lot of movement inside that passenger area of the vehicle, which is a concern to police officers. They don't know what's going on here. It looks like there possibly is a male in that passenger seat. So that's going to also determine how they handle this pursuit. And you see that this car is circling up within the same area of South Los Angeles, which is also a concern. Does this driver or this passenger know people in this area? Are they leading officers into an area that might be very dangerous for them to be in? So we want to make sure, you can see all those people out on the street, they want to make sure that they handle this very, very carefully. But by all means, a pit maneuver, pursuit intervention technique is very possible. Another spike strip, again, very possible, as you see that left front tire nearly down to the rims. That rubber is about to come off that tire, and that's going to make it extremely difficult for this driver to handle this vehicle. So right now, it's a wait and see. There's no extreme, immediate danger to stop her, although she is going through stop signs. It is not extremely reckless, so they're going to see what happens here. Stay loose behind her until they find an advantageous position to take her into custody and him into custody.
And if there is a male passenger or any passenger in the car, that definitely could change the scenario. Is the driver being forced to drive around? Is there a hostage? Oh, we see some sparks now. Yeah. The tread just given way on the tire there on the front tire.
And Ruta Bay,
what we just saw, David, in Ruta Bay is also the passenger is throwing things out of the vehicle.
Right.
Now, that's some sort of contraband or weapons. Now, the CHP behind them are documenting every position that's thrown out. They're going to have officers behind recover that, whether it's drug paraphernalia or any type of contraband. That's going to be recovered and used as evidence in this pursuit. And you can see that tire and that rim starting to come apart.
Yeah, it's going down now. We understand that they are near Fremont High School. If you're familiar with the area, that's where they're driving through right now. And we are hearing from witnesses saying that they are seeing her throw some items out the window. So that's good to know, JT, that they're on top of that, they're documenting that, etc. How does having a passenger change the scenario here for law enforcement?
Well, it depends on what the original want for is. Right now, law enforcement officers, at least what we're learning here at ABC7, is that the vehicle is wanted as a stolen vehicle. So right now, that's grand theft auto. But the fact that the passenger in the vehicle, the male passenger, is throwing evidence out the window, there could be more going on here. And that's always the danger in law enforcement. They're not really sure what they have. They may have run the plate and made that come back stolen, but this vehicle could have and possibly been used in many crimes that they don't know about yet. So it's always a very dangerous situation, especially when you have a passenger that you don't know what they're wanted for, and that this pursuit continues. You can see all that movement in that passenger vehicle with that suspect getting his hands underneath the floorboard, underneath the seat, all dangerous signs for law enforcement to look out for when they don't know exactly what they have.
Look at that. So
yeah, a lot of sparks flying.
She doesn't have a lot of options when it comes to maneuverability. I mean, there's only so far she's going to be able to go now that she's down to the rims and sparking like crazy. Understand that this might be the Vermont Knolls neighborhood of South LA, at least somewhere near there, as we mentioned, near Fremont High School.
And just a minute ago, we did get a shot of that passenger, definitely a passenger, where it looked like wearing a white sweatshirt or something in the passenger seat of the car. It looked like he or she was bending over, trying to maneuver something in the car.
Right. And it looks like it's hard to tell if there's still tread or the tire's normal on the passenger side, the front passenger side. Definitely the front driver's side. That's the car, that's the tire that's now doing the sparking, which we've mentioned that earlier in this broadcast, how these spike strips, sometimes it's kind of a slow progression, but eventually they take their toll on these cars. First, the tire will lose air, then tread, and then be down to the rims, and then you'll see the sparks fly, and As I said before, sometimes we even seen cars catch on fire due to the sparks flying and the car trying to drive on rims. But very, very poor maneuverability for this driver.
Yeah, definitely something is going to develop out of this. Not many possibilities with no front tires. So that spike strip, we know now, it was successful in slowing this driver down. Again, in the Vermont Knolls neighborhood now, going over looks like speed bump divots there in a residential neighborhood. The sun has gone down. You can now see the spotlight from the helicopter. And luckily, not a lot of people on this particular, oh yeah, there are people actually standing on this street corner, and that is always a dangerous scenario. It's worrying when you see people out in the path like that.
Yeah, we see that quite often, especially the more high profile these pursuits become, the more people hear about it, and then they want to run outside and not necessarily take part in it, but maybe see it. I mean, it goes all the way back to O.J. It's one of those phenomenons that just happens here in Los Angeles, where these police pursuits, they take on their own identity, and then people, they all kind of flock out there to watch it. It's a dangerous thing to do, especially if the pursuit gets out of hand, becomes violent, it becomes too fast. At least in this case so far, things are relatively under control, considering the fact that, there you see it, the sparks from that front wheel, definitely there's no tread left, and so maneuverability is tricky.
And we're hearing now the LAPD has...
Now back in the city of Los Angeles, looks like they're northbound on Central, and looks like they're going to be making a westbound, I believe, turn on 74th Street. So to come out of the LA County area, now back in the city of Los Angeles, even though CHP has the lead on this, LAPD is closely monitoring the situation with both the Air Support Division and on the radios to monitor where exactly this is. So if they need to get into that area and assist CHP with setting up a perimeter if these suspects run into this neighborhood and locking that down, LAPD will assist with that, and that looks like it might be what happens here if that does terminate within the city of Los Angeles.
And LAPD is saying that this is a female driver, and they may or may not have taken over for the CHP. The CHP originally took over for LAPD when she got on the 105 and the 110 freeways, now back in South LA in residential neighborhoods. So it looks like the LAPD may have taken over again, but they are saying that this is a female driver. And we did see with our own eyes from that helicopter shot that there was a passenger in the car, at least one passenger.
That passenger is said to be the person that might be throwing things out of the vehicle. So we don't know exactly what, though. We've been reporting that, but perhaps it's contraband of some sort, maybe drugs, maybe we haven't heard of anything about weapons just yet, but we just don't know the details. So while we're telling you they're throwing something out, we still don't know what exactly that is.
And how long ago was that, David, when they put the spike strip down? At least 10, 15
let's see,
minutes,
it's 7:22 right now, and I would say that was within the first 5 minutes of this broadcast. So it's about 15 minutes ago, I would say, somewhere around there, that they hit it with the spike strips, and then we saw it take its toll.
And, you know, still continuing to drive. And again, as David pointed out earlier, only so much time she has in this car before it starts to completely fall apart. Already the two front tires have lost their tread, it looks like.
Our producer tells us, Matt Worcester says it's 7:05. They threw that spike strip. So, yeah, right about 5 minutes into the pursuit that we had it on this broadcast, they hit that car. So it's 7:22 now, so 15, 17 minutes ago, 18 minutes ago, that car has been driving, you know, basically handicapped.
And possibly oh, go ahead.
Sorry, Rudy Bay. One of the things that's unfortunate about this is it looks like they were only able to get that left front tire. Now, we still have 3 good tires on this vehicle, and we've seen pursuits where vehicles with 3 good tires, even 2 good tires, have gone on for a substantial amount of time here. So that is unfortunate, as it looks like they just turned off 63rd, and I believe they're back northbound. But you can really see that rim starting to spark up right now, and even that right front headlight is just dangling there. So there's quite a bit of damage from this vehicle. It almost looks like the vehicle may have been involved in a traffic collision somewhere along this pursuit as well. But right now, as they continue north, I believe that's northbound. We'll have to get that verified. But again, still going in the wrong direction, of the opposite side of the street. Very, very dangerous here. Even though they're at very slow speeds, a lot of pedestrians out as they cross over Firestone Boulevard here. And it looks like they're going to make that turn onto Firestone. And I believe that's back westbound. I'll have to get that verified on Firestone from about from 63rd area. So it is very, very dangerous right now, especially with her incapacitated on that vehicle, that tire. It's going to come a point, Ruta Bay and David, that she does possibly lose control of that vehicle and not be able to stop in time and obviously put a lot of pedestrians and other vehicles into danger as she heads back into the city of Los Angeles.
It is interesting. It's almost like a boat. You could see the front of that car kind of swimming around, probably when she's either trying to maneuver it in and out of the lanes or maybe even hit the brakes. You could see that front end just kind of shimmy just a bit. And then especially on those turns, really tough to keep that thing on, on its rails, on track when it's making those turns without that tread and that one tire. But you're right, JT, if they would have hit both tires, definitely would have handicapped that car quite a bit more. But with on those three tires, she refuses to give up. The good thing is, at least she's not gunning it and just going completely out of control. Let's see what's going on in here.
Looks like it's either, yeah, it is an alley.
Okay. Yeah, it almost looks like a driveway, but a narrow alley, making their way through, very little room for movement. Let's see what's on the other side of this. We don't know if this is unexplored territory or unknown territory for this vehicle.
And she seems to have been making kind of a lot of maneuvers in that way, going through parking lots, coming out the other side, now going through an alley.
Very dangerous when suspects lead officers into these areas because, again, more than likely this is an area that may be familiar to the suspects and not so familiar with the officers following, especially, or in pursuing, I should say, especially if they're in areas that's not from their original point of deployment. So you can see that they are slowing down, going through these alleys. More than likely, more times than not, they go back to areas eventually that they're familiar with, that they have possibly people that they know in the area that could offer them refuge if they do run, and we've seen that quite a bit when suspects do run into areas they're familiar with, jump over a few fences, hit a few fence lines and houses, and wind up in the backyard of someone they know and then get let in a back door. So that's always something that's very, very in the forefront of police officers' minds, and especially in an officer safety type situation, that they're being led into a possible ambush type situation. So that's always a very big concern as this pursuit continues.
Right, and we understand, as you predicted, JT, LAPD is now in charge of this pursuit as they make their way through, I guess it was eastbound Firestone from Compton Avenue that it was driving, and now I'm not quite sure exactly where they are because of the multiple alleys. From what we understand, they're reporting that the speeds are low. They're 20 miles per hour or less because of maneuverability. But boy, there's a tight squeeze right there, Rita Bay.
Yeah, and just a second ago, you saw two pedestrians crossing the street. Very close call there. So low speeds, but definitely not being cautious, to say the least. Not paying attention to stop signs or traffic lights, and choosing to go into these narrow alleys and parking lots, coming out the other side. Kind of unclear what the goal is here for this driver, where she is trying to go. But now that the sun has gone down, you can see those sparks flying really well intermittently there. So just waiting and
this
seeing
looks like it might be in the area down near the 60s, as far as near Long Beach Boulevard, in that area in south maybe eastern Los Angeles, between the area of the county and the southern Los Angeles area. And what's unfortunate, again, David and Rita Bay, you see all the people that are coming out, and this almost becomes a spectator sport, and it is so dangerous that this situation could end very volatilely. We saw that in South Los Angeles just a few days ago on Thursday or Friday, and where a suspect got out with a weapon and in the middle of daylight and got into a shootout with the LA County Sheriff's Department. And there are a lot of people out in that area, and they can become in that crossfire. So it's very, very dangerous when this is in your area. It's not something you want to come out to the street and look at and wave at. And, by all means, you want to get your children and your family inside, because you never know how this is going to end. Yes, it's for a stolen vehicle, but we may not know what else is going on here. Like we said earlier, there could be all sorts of other wants for the suspect. Even the passenger could have a weapon. There's so many probabilities that this could end in, and you don't want any citizens in that crossfire. As this pursuit continues, it looks like they're going to be on 83rd Street, and it looks like they may be back in the county of Los Angeles.
And when there's a passenger in the car, there are so many different scenarios that could be possible there too. It could be that this driver is being forced to drive against her will, that the passenger has a weapon. It could be that the passenger is a kidnap victim, and we just don't know what's happening here. We don't even know. There could be more than one passenger. We just we don't know what the scenario is here. That's why it's so dangerous.
We're also hearing that
neither do police. Rita Bay, you hit that on the head, nor do police. They know what the original want is for, but it's very difficult to know all the circumstances at that particular minute, what's going on in that vehicle.
There may be more tire damage than we know here, JT. We're getting reports from our desk that they're hearing that they may have multiple tires punctured here, even though one is down to the rim, the others are not. But they may have lost a couple of their tires on that one spike strip. That's at least what we're getting, and the car is down to less than 10 miles per hour, but still moving, refuses to give up, but only moving at an average speed of about 10 miles per hour.
It looks like that rim may be getting lower and lower, David and Ridabé. You know, as that vehicle progresses without any rubber, that's just going to eat away at that rim till they get down to the brake pads and then finally to the axle. And there's going to be a point where that vehicle could become so low on that left front that it's not going to be able to continue fast at all.
Right.
And again, at that point, there is a supervisor in this pursuit, and that supervisor is in charge of balancing this pursuit. His job is to weigh everything out there against the danger to the public, danger to against how important it is to get the suspect in custody. They've got LAPD Air Support Division overhead making decisions, and it looks like it still may be CHP in the lead of this pursuit. It does not look like LAPD has taken it. The primary unit in this pursuit appears still to be CHP, so it looks like they've taken
you're right.
back.
We're getting an update now that CHP is it's still their pursuit. Okay, so we do understand right now that our producers have been able to call up that spike strip hit. So this happened at 7:05. We're keeping the live picture up on your left. On the right-hand side, watch closely, and you'll see the car brake. You'll see the deputy or the officer throw the spike strip out there. It was hard for me to see live. There it is. And then it hits the car. I couldn't tell if it actually went over the spike strip, but it certainly, now we see all the evidence, it certainly did go over that spike strip. And we're showing it one more time.
Definitely made contact with it.
Yeah, the car brakes suddenly, very close to that law enforcement officer. It was a successful hit, but you could see a lot of that spike strip got knocked away, so it might not have gotten all the other tires after all. Nevertheless, a great job still in knocking out at least one of those tires that really handicaps this car. And you'll notice the CHP is right behind this car now. It is barely able to move, and the sparks are really flying.
And what I want to point out, David, is actually who deployed the spike strips there. That was the LA County Sheriff's Department.
That's what I thought. It looked like a Sheriff's Department, a deputy's uniform.
Yep. It is, and that goes to show you the interagency operation with these types of pursuits. You got CHP, you got LAPD, and LA County Sheriffs all working together, communicating together to take the suspects into custody. Now you can see this passenger suspect hanging out the side of that passenger door. Very dangerous situation, talking to pedestrians. He's talking to that guy on the bike and giving him signals, and that's never a good thing. So what's going to happen at that point is they may have one of the units in the pursuit actually talk to that suspect. Do you know this guy? Who is he? What does he want? And actually take that suspect into custody, or at least detain him to be able to talk to him about what's going on here, because he definitely had communications with that suspect. You can see other vehicles getting involved, trying to block them in. That's never a good idea. You don't want to go head-to-head with the suspect vehicle because you don't know what's going on there. But again, we talked about this. Everybody's involved in this particular area. This female driver is circling through these neighborhoods and going past the same areas over and over again. Never a good sign as she picks up speed here on that rim, and you can see all those sparks coming out. Not a good situation here. The faster she goes, and the lower that rim gets, the less control she's going to have, and this could end badly. So right now, we talked about the supervisors and Air Support Division in this pursuit, weighing all the dangers against the public against taking these suspects into custody, and that's what they have to manage. They have to figure out if they're going to continue to follow, if they're going to go into a tracking mode, a less aggressive stance, and just try to get them into custody.
Looks like a pit maneuver is happening right now.
They almost did it.
That's right.
Here it goes.
There we go. Definitely.
You can see the suspect really trying to get away here. CHP comes in for that pit maneuver, trying to spin that back in, and just missed it that time, but they're going to try to do it again.
All right.
Now,
still managing to stay on the streets.
Yeah, very tense situation here, as you can see, as this continues on. Now, she has obviously picked up speed, trying to get away from that, and there's the pit maneuver as it comes around the corner. I may be watching a few seconds behind you, but now they still have to weigh, was the area of opportunity now gone for, now they're on a more residential street than more the commercial industrial street. That all comes in as a factor. They may not want to do it on a residential street because of the danger it poses to other pedestrians in the area.
It looks to me like she's picking up speed a little bit, as much as she can there. Certainly looks like she's going faster than she was before when she was down to 20 and 10 miles an hour. And again, other traffic, other vehicles on these streets. It's getting really dangerous now. Another pit maneuver. It looks like they're moving in. CHP narrowly missing this last one, but it looks like they're attempting to do another one.
Yeah, and they just came off Florence Avenue, and you can see CHP trying to dislodge the rear end of that vehicle and get that momentum, that forward momentum and a side momentum, and then they're going to actually try to get her spun around and then block her in. That's usually enough to stop it, but you can see obviously that she's trying to get away at a faster pace, which presents another problem, is taking that pit maneuver into play here. Is that causing the suspect to drive more recklessly? Is that or more dangerously and putting the public at large? These are all situations and all decisions that these supervisors have to make on the fly, second by second, to manage this and balance getting that suspect into custody and protecting the citizens.
Well, certainly the driver is absolutely a lot more aggressive now, trying to get away. Look at the high rate of speed on 3 tires and the CHP right behind them. She's definitely more aggressive right now. I'm doubtful with the damage to the car that this person would be able to control this car if they had to hit the brakes quickly.
And also, look how dangerous this is for these other cars who just happen to be in the area here, going through intersections, dangerous for pedestrians too, and CHP right behind her there.
And now you see that she's going down the slow lanes, in and out of traffic, becoming a much more dangerous situation here on 3 tires. That's never a good thing for officers, and they may consider that. And you can see she's kind of fishtailing around here a little bit. Obviously, the faster she goes on 3 tires, the less control she's going to have. Always a dangerous situation here, and what they don't want to do here, and I can definitely tell they're in the county. We'll try to give you a cross street here. It looks like they're coming off Florence, and I believe they're going northbound of Air 7 when they pull out a little bit on those intersections. You can get a better idea of where they're actually at. But they are coming off Florence, and it looks like they are possibly going northbound, I believe. Here, we'll get you a side street.
Is this still Walnut Park, do you think, or have they moved out?
Unfortunately, I don't have that information right now.
Yeah,
we're
working
trying
on
to
find it
gathering
as
the
well.
exact location for you right now from Air 7 HD. But again, it's they continue this pursuit. You can see people just kind of that were in the street or crossing the street, kind of running across the street as they see them coming. It's becoming there's a lot of pedestrians out here on this warm evening.
Yeah, that is not good. There's a little child right there. Mom trying to run the kid out of there.
She's trying to get out. Now, okay, now they're going into a parking lot here. This could be tricky. There's multiple police vehicles in that parking lot.
It seems to be a maneuver this driver has used.
What kind of, is this a gas station?
It looks like a gas station.
It is the Valero gas station.
Again, going through a parking lot, something the driver has been doing the entire time, going through parking lots, going out on the other side, and that was a scary situation just now with that little toddler.
Well, if you consider the fact that this car can't maneuver and probably can't brake very well, and they're that close to some people, including a little child, there's no way the child can get out of the way. Luckily, the mother was paying attention.
Now, there's a situation here, David and Rudabeh, that if this vehicle does come to a stop, there is a good chance that we've seen before in situations like that, especially with a female driver and a male passenger, which seems to be the case here. It's not verified yet. There is a good chance when this pursuit does terminate that passenger, the male suspect in this, may run. She may slow down to a point where the suspect runs. So you can be assured that more than likely they're going to focus on that passenger since he was the one throwing the evidence out of the vehicle. And if officers do have further information on what that may be wanted for, they may go after him primarily and the driver secondarily, which could be the case here. But we're going to see if that happens here. But we've seen that more times than not when the drivers and the passengers get out, that they may go after the passenger if they split up during a foot pursuit.
And really scary when it's a stolen vehicle like this, because the officers really have no idea who's in that car. At least if it came up and was registered to the owner, they would have some idea of what they were dealing with, perhaps. But right now, they really have no indication except that it's a stolen car. They don't know if these people have been involved in other crimes, why they're running, what the frame of mind is right now. So just a lot of questions up in the air. We're told they're still in Walnut Park right now.
Fir Avenue, I understand. Fir Avenue in Walnut Park.
Yeah, they just turned off a Fir, and we're trying to verify which eastbound or westbound here, or that might be northbound. But yeah, Rudabeh, you nailed it there. They, come see almost sideswiping that car there. But that's exactly the case. And a lot of these times, unfortunately, the suspects steal these vehicles and they commit crimes that may be unreported crimes as of now and may have just happened. So they could have a lot more wants on what's going on here. So officers are trying to gather that information in real time as this pursuit's happening, talking to these other agencies, trying to get information about reported crimes. If those reported crimes actually have the same description as the vehicle involved here, to try to put something together so they have a little bit more information.
Yeah, and I mean, we did see the closest thing we could get to kind of the frame of mind was when they slowed down and made contact with someone who was standing who was in another car there, was standing on the street rather. The passenger leaned out of the car and said something to that person. So we don't.
Wow! Look at all that. The smoke, the sparks.
Look how many patrol cars, how many CHP cars there are there.
You can see that U-turn in the street, and now it's becoming this kind of round-robin thing that we've seen on so many pursuits before. When never a good situation.
This is close to that point when these sparks fly like that. You often see a fire start on these vehicles. There's so many sparks flying out there. There's smoke. You see the smoke coming out as well. They can't drive like this forever, as we've said, and this car is slowly breaking down.
And we did just see the passenger hang out the window again. So there, can we get I'm getting kind of a shot of the driver and a lot of flame sparks there flying.
Yeah, this car, like you said, David, is absolutely breaking down. If CHP is looking for another good spot, and a safe spot, I should say, to do a pit maneuver. But you can see all the sparks on that. That is just absolutely breaking down. And this has to come to an end soon before this car comes apart. And we've seen in situations like this before, that cars like this involved in this often catch on fire here at the end of pursuits. And if that's the case, that presents a whole other problem for officers and the suspects in the vehicle.
And another problem they're dealing with, people out on the streets taking photos and video, it looks like. Not a good idea. If this is in your neighborhood, you want to go inside. You do not want to approach this scene at all. You don't want to get close. This is a very precarious situation. It's unpredictable. We don't know what's going to happen here. So definitely not a good idea to have people outside. There you can see the tire, well, no tire. You see the rim there completely broken down.
As JT said, it's going to be down to the axle pretty soon. It doesn't look like there's much left there. Clearly down to the brake pads at least. And if they do a pit maneuver, we've seen those go badly because vehicles go flying, and if there are people on the sidewalks, it's extremely dangerous. Although the CHP and what is that? Is that
furniture?
It looked like somebody throwing out. Maybe it's a shopping cart of some sort, trash can.
Yeah, and that's what you see, unfortunately, David, when this is on the air and people getting out and involved and trying to intervene, and trash cans being thrown at the vehicles and trying to get involved in this. And again, never a good idea. And they are in the area of near Compton, just east of Compton, and the Firestone area is what we're seeing, maybe close to Graham Avenue.
Okay. Well, we continue to watch this pursuit. We've been on this since about 7 o'clock this evening. It started just a few minutes before that. Apparently, a car stolen somewhere near Northridge. LoJack helped the sheriff's department track it down. Then the CHP was on the pursuit. The car did go from the 105 freeway south to the 110 freeway and exited around South LA, and then we basically have been seeing it kind of meander through these surface streets ever since. Has not got back on the freeways, but we did see a successful spike strip about 7:05 today. We saw that front driver's side tire go all the way down to where it's almost down to the axle right now. Very tough maneuvering for this car. A couple of pit maneuver attempts happened, weren't quite successful, but the CHP, as you can see, is right behind it, ready to do it again. The good news is we haven't seen any major collisions. The car recently we haven't seen. We did see some higher speeds, Rudabeh, but most of the time it was moving pretty slowly, especially after the spike strip. Yeah,
and it's about the same 20-25 block grid that this driver has been going on. They're underneath that overpass there. A couple of the pivotal points I thought were the attempted pit maneuver, a couple of attempted pit maneuvers. Also the spike strips, which the spike strip which was successful at least with one of the tires, and then that very scary moment with the toddler, the mom just narrowly missing, getting out of the way with her small child.
Running with the child, holding the child's hand.
Now, this street, guys, is exactly the same street we saw her go down no more than 10 minutes ago, Rabin, the railroad tracks. And I think that's kind of near Long Beach Boulevard, if I'm not mistaken, in the Walnut Park area.
Okay, we're watching some videotape on the right-hand side. Those are the pit maneuvers we were talking about. They got very close. They hit the car. You'll see another attempt right here. They're going to hit the car, and I think the car tries a really tough turn right here and kind of gets out of it. Those are the two most aggressive pit maneuvers that we saw. And then if you look again at the live picture, you can see those sparks really flying. One more time, we're watching the right-hand side. This is videotape on the right-hand side. The pit maneuver attempt right there. You'll see the CHP kind of come up on that car again. And you see the car is realizing what's happening. The driver of this red sedan just takes off and then tries to elude police and refuses to give up despite the fact that this car is pretty much shot.
And staying on these residential streets, going through alleys and parking lots at often 10 or 20 miles an hour. Then after that failed pit maneuver, picking up speed on bigger streets, but again going back to the same area over and over again, and going back to slow rates of speed. Again, an alley, it looks like. Same tactic they used earlier.
They're northbound just east of Compton, right in the area 84th and Compton. They're northbound through that alley, working those alleys right around 84th and Compton. I think they're just east of Compton here as they go through these alleys, which is an area that we were in.
And look at those sparks flying now.
Sparks are really moving. Every time it turns, hits the brakes, anything, the sparks really come out. But so far we haven't seen any fires start. But that car cannot, I mean, it's tough to keep that thing moving, but they refuse to give up, which, you know, it begs a question which we ask on every one of these pursuits, and this is the time we ask it, is why not give up? Because clearly you know where this is going to end. They're not going to get away.
Yeah, and there was smoke also coming out, not just sparks.
And that is, they're continuing westbound on 83rd Street in the Walnut Park area. They just passed through Compton, so they're starting to make their way back towards the city of Los Angeles. But again, you can see that they're starting to go in circles here. Not a good situation. This is something that the police have to figure.
Everybody was standing there with a cell phone. Did you see that, JT? That crowd of, I don't know, what was it, 10 people standing there, and as the car went by, they all had their cell phones on, taking either video or photographs of it.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate that this is unfortunately becoming more of a spectator sport here in the area, and it's so dangerous. And we see this more and more, and unfortunately we've seen a rash of pursuits lately, David, in North Bay. We have seen just almost, you know, now there are pursuits every day in Southern California, but most of them are very, very short, not these long pursuits, and we're seeing more and more of these every day, and it's concerning. It's concerning for law enforcement. It's concerning for everybody involved. It's concerning for the safety of the citizens, and getting these things under control as quickly as possible and as safely as possible is the main concern for law enforcement.
Yeah, and I believe this is the third pursuit today that we've had on our radar.
We have had
the other ones have been shorter, but
a number of pursuits have been in the newscast earlier today, in fact. But you're right; it does seem like something that's happened. Maybe it's the heat. Yeah, I've worked in other markets where when the hot weather comes, that's when all these bad things start to happen. At least in the beginning,
the crime picks up.
Yeah. But you know, we didn't have much of a winter, but it does seem like that this winter has been one of those where it's kind of known for these high-profile pursuits.
They are now northbound in an alley from 83rd Street, just east of Central here. Now they're back in the city of Los Angeles. Again, the CHP still has the handle on this and handling it right now, but LAPD watching very, very closely and observing this pursuit in case these suspects do run.
Looking almost like it's coming to a stop, and then...
So, JT, what is the tactic there when we saw this vehicle, although let's watch closely as are they going to come to a halt, and are there...
Oh, picking back up again.
Did the driver put her hand out the window?
I couldn't tell.
Yeah, there's speculation there might be taunting going on right now. But there's a guy on a bike going the wrong way down the street watching the pursuit. I wonder what I was going to ask you, JT, when she took that turn and there was a CHP vehicle only 5 feet away that clearly could have cut their path off, but in fact went the other way and moved out of the way. What is the tactic there? Clearly, they're not bent on absolutely stopping them.
Well, that answer is very prevalent in what we've been seeing here on the air, David. It is there are too many pedestrians out here, too many people out here. It is not safe to do a pursuit intervention technique or pit maneuver when there are so many pedestrians out, because that is unnecessarily endangering the public. For at this point, all they know is a stolen car pursuit. They do not want to spin out this vehicle and have that vehicle careen into any innocent civilians on the street. That is something that, again, needs to be managed very closely and very well by supervisors and Air Support Division. Now, the helicopters overhead, it cannot be overstated how important they are in these types of things, because they can see the big picture. They can look ahead 5, 6, 7 blocks and advise the pursuing officers what's coming up, what they need to be aware of, anywhere from vehicle cross traffic to pedestrians to dangerous ambush type situations. That's why it is so important to have that helicopter overhead with that night sun spotlight on that suspect, and also looking ahead to lock down that area if that suspect does run, and to give them advisories like that cross traffic you just saw go through. That suspect went right through that mid-phase red tri-light, and that cross traffic nearly hit that vehicle as she crossed through that intersection.
And that's a good point, JT. I mean, what happens when this finally does come to a stop if they are in this residential neighborhood? Often we see these pursuits end on a freeway or on a busy street, but here on a residential neighborhood, these suspects could go into anyone's house. They could go into yards to try to get away, and that is a very dangerous situation. They have to be thinking ahead to that scenario when it does come to a stop, because of the nature of the neighborhood they're in.
Absolutely, and right now they are going southbound or continuing westbound from 79th Street from San Pedro back in the city of Los Angeles. And Rudy, you hit that on the head. And that's why it's so important for that helicopter to be overhead and those units to be close. When they do run through those backyards, what those officers do is they completely lock down that area in what's called a containment or a perimeter, where they get officers completely surrounding that area. It's not entirely necessary to run after that suspect through unfamiliar yards. They want to lock that suspect down into that perimeter and just make sure that they don't pop out on other streets or other areas, and really lock it down and get canine units there or special weapons and tactics there if needed, if there's weapons involved or a barricade situation, and lock them down in that area. So that's exactly what's happening here. Both this California Highway Patrol, along with the sheriffs coordinating with LAPD, if these suspects get out in the city of Los Angeles and they start running, they're going to know exactly what to do, and LAPD is familiar with this area, and lock it down and take them into custody.
Well, we hope it happens soon as this continues to go. We're now at 7:51. We've been watching this pursuit for the better part of an hour now, and this driver just refuses to give up. However, we've seen the driver kind of lull to a slower attitude, going extremely slowly, as you can see. And if you're just tuning in, we'll let you know that the car that this person is driving was hit with a spike strip a long time ago. And as you're looking closely, that front driver's side tire is no longer in existence. It's down to the rim, down to the axle more than likely, and maneuverability is extremely difficult. Nevertheless, even though this car is probably only capable of moving at a few miles per hour, as you can see, the driver and the passenger in this car are refusing to give up. We will tell you that, well, coming to a halt here. Let's see what happens.
This is about southbound Main at about 85th or 86th Street. Right now they're facing southbound on LAPD Southeast Division.
Uh-oh. That's not good. He's going to take off and run.
Yep.
The passenger is running.
Just as you predicted, JT, the passenger may get out and take off running.
Yep, puts the hands up and does the notorious, I'm going to walk away and then I'm going to run.
And this
now, you can be assured LAPD Air Support is locking this down as officers are in close for pursuit. He's going to start hitting, he's going to go through driveways, hit fences, and start hitting backyards, which is pretty typical for what they do.
Right.
This is an area probably well known to the suspect. You can see he's going to hop a fence.
Oh, my gosh.
Air 7 HD maneuvering around. Now, right now, the idea is to lock this perimeter down. It's not entirely necessary to chase him through these backyards and on these rooftops or wherever it is. Now he's back on the street.
Did he just run into our news van? It looked like he did. Okay, so he just barely got away from CHP officers. He got through a gate.
We ran. That's a ABC. You can see an officer on. He's hopping fences. He went right by our eyewitness news truck, back over a fence, now running through yards. Now, what they want to watch and make sure he's not reaching for a waistband. He's got a very large white sweatshirt on.
They're on him.
Very dangerous. They've got to watch his hands at all times.
Okay, they're on him right now. Looks like
they are putting hands on him right now. CHP officers are taking him into custody. They've got everybody on those corners. And it looks like you can't see right now, but they are taking him into custody right near that truck.
Okay, so that suspect, that is the passenger in the vehicle, he did take off, as you predicted. They do have him in custody. We're sorry about losing the light. They pulled the light off of him, but there you can see the flashlights. There he is in custody. Officers were able to get him, but it was quite a pursuit, a foot pursuit. And we're hearing that our news vehicle might have somehow gotten stuck in the middle of that pursuit, and there might be an injury.
The officers ran right across that suspect. And also be advised, the female suspect is still in that vehicle. Right now, CHP officers, maybe along with LAPD, giving her orders and trying to prone her out. That suspect, the main suspect, the male is in custody. The female still in the vehicle, and it's unclear right now if she is complying with commands from the officers at the vehicle. We're going to take that shot back 9 and see where we're at on that.
There she is. She's getting out right now. It looks like she had to reach around outside to open the door.
Yes.
And the door is now open. She's surrounded by law enforcement officers. The passenger has been detained.
In the air. She's showing them their hands.
Now, this is a very carefully choreographed situation with what they do. They have them do this every single way, the same way every time. They're going to have them come out of the vehicle, raise their hands, possibly turn around. It depends on the CHP, and every agency's got a little bit different tactic on how they do it. Sometimes the CHP actually will have her walk back to the sound of their voice with the hands up. You can see the female it's complying with that so far. Looks a little dazed, looks a little unsure of herself. Not really taking the commands too well.
Under the influence, possibly.
Possibly. It looks that way.
Yeah, you'd almost. I mean, it's not surprising. That's all I'll say. What's interesting as we continue to watch this is, I know it happened quickly, but during that foot pursuit, and you'll notice the canine unit is right there and standby too, which is extremely intimidating if you're the person getting arrested. If they could always deploy the dog if you don't abide by what they're saying, but it looks like everything's going smoothly so far. But back to
This is on Main at 84th Place, Dave and Rudabay. I just wanted to update that. I may have said 86 earlier, but it's 84th Place, which is a couple blocks further north. They are facing southbound, and that almost looks like it's LA County Sheriff's canine. It does not look like a CHP canine, even though they are using that CHP vehicle for cover. That is LA County Sheriff's canine deployed in the area.
Well, okay, so we saw this foot pursuit. We saw the CHP, this guy really gave them a run, and he just barely got out of their grasp, and it did look like one of the officers made a very aggressive move towards him, dove at that suspect, just missed him, but then the suspect ran into our vehicle, and then the CHP officer ran into our vehicle. So let's watch closely here. On the right-hand side, this is the video that we're talking about. You see the suspect, he stood up, put his hands up, and he took off running as we predicted, or JT predicted, and then the chase is on. You'll see, here is where he does what we typically see, and that is he hits the fence lines, he starts jumping into people's backyards. We had a beautiful shot of him as he's going through here. The law enforcement helicopter is on him, their stun gun is on him. He's not going anywhere that he can get away from. So here he is jumping through a number of fences, back onto the street, and by a couple from what I recall.
And even a child, which is exactly why...
Right there. That's our news vehicle. That was an aggressive move by the CHP, and I understand that he ran into our vehicle and is injured. And you'll see he's just missed right here. Gets over that fence, but just seconds later, you'll see a couple of officers. They are able to finally reach him. I think it's pretty close to here that they get him. He is just off camera, right under that fence line. They pull him off the fence. That's what happened. They pulled him down.
Such a dangerous situation, David Rudabay, when you got the suspect running and you can't really see his waistband. He's got a very long covered shirt, and that's always a very, very scary predicament for law enforcement. And when they're running like that, you can't see his hands.
And people all around, children and everyone all around. Now, in the meantime, on the left-hand side of the screen, that is the live picture right now, and that woman was handcuffed. She was put in the back of a car.
And a big crowd has gathered too. But keep this in mind, since that happened right in front of a news van, we obviously have a photographer there and a reporter there. They're going to have a very interesting story that I'm definitely going to want to see at 11 p.m. on Eyewitness News. They'll be able to turn that around and tell us exactly what their perspective was when it comes to this pursuit. Right here, right there. That's our news van, and we'll get a live report from that reporter on this whole incident, including, look at the neighborhood. The neighborhood has really turned out for that. There's a big crowd that has gathered at this pursuit. It's one of those pursuits that wasn't really, I wouldn't call it dynamic by any means, but it meandered through this neighborhood for so long, and enough people found out about it that it turned out to be quite an ordeal for this neighborhood.
And Eyewitness News reporter Leanne Suter was in that van. She'll have a complete report later tonight at 11 on ABC 7. Officers, in the meantime, have gone up to that red sedan. They have secured it to make sure no one else is inside that car.
All right, so this has been quite a pursuit. It started just before 7 o'clock. A car reported stolen out of Northridge. They spotted it. The Sheriff's Department spotted it with a LoJack system on the 105 freeway. It jumped to the 110 to South L.A., and then that's where we picked it up, and it went for quite some time, but 2 people now in custody. The full report on Eyewitness News at 11.